never forget where you came from. It's that road that you took that got you to where you are today. All these veterans, they always saw something where they wanted to talk to me and drop knowledge. JP was such a magical place. I can't explain it. Technically, they're right. They were the first announced match, but we were the first match. What do you think if I threw you, press slammed you from the ring to wall? We don't become the hit squad unless we wrestle Russell Charlie on us. The team, the greatest team that we ever wrestled that brought the fight out of us was EYFBO. They were fighting not just to gain our respect, but to earn their spot at the table. Wanted to make sure, me and Maff had a proper send-off because we were a special team. No matter what anybody says, what we say about ourselves, we're a special team. He's like, I got over that a long time ago. I was like, good, because, I wasn't trying to, have to punch you in the face for you trying to step up to me.
Call it how I see it, straight talk, no disguise. Southern slang dripping, got the truth in my eyes. Might like gavel, every word, lay it down. Coach C in the booth, turn the game all around, yeah. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business. Yeah, I'm sharp as a tack when I call the play-by-play. Every dog got his day, and I make the crowd stay. Cause every week we go live on a Wednesday. Dressing so sharp, that's the reason why your friends stay. The youngest in the game to do it, best for business. Coach C is the truth and everybody gonna witness. Love entertainment, you swear it's your destiny. Link with Coach C, we can talk about your legacy. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm pumped for this one. Steve Mack, Monsta Mack, thank you so much for joining me. I'm pumped.
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for this one. Earlier, I interviewed Mike Tobin. He talked very highly, so the fact months later we could do this. Thank you so much.
Mike Tobin's a true brother. A lot of history with him, and he's one of the best guys in the biz that I've ever met. So, everybody that I've spoken to about you has put you over highly. So I'm excited to do this as well.
I'm excited.
Sorry about my voice, though. My voice is a little wrecked. I just came back from Florida, and the flight messed me all up.
Wow. I'm excited for this one. Like I told you, you're an absolute legend. You have done so much in pro wrestling. So I'm curious originally, what was it about wrestling that made you want to get involved in it?
Growing up, my uncle, Loki's father, Loki's my cousin.
Wow.
He put me on to Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania, and rock and wrestling. And both of us at the same time. So we lived about maybe 10 blocks away from each other growing up, all the way up until like freshman year of high school. And we did everything like brothers. And wrestling was a huge thing for us, especially once Hogan beat the Sheik. Like wrestling took off in the Northeast, in New York, in Brooklyn, where we were at. It was ridiculous, And he put us on to that, and we always would get in trouble for wrestling. I remember one time my aunt, she came home from work. She worked maybe about 3 or 4 blocks away. Mm-hmm. She came home, and she was like, the neighbors were complaining because they lived in an apartment building. And neighbors were complaining, and she whipped our ass with a belt, right? And we were like, all right, we won't wrestle. She went back to work. As soon as she left, we were back to wrestling.
Yeah.
And, I can tell you the very first time that we ever got into a ring was around October 96. Mm-hmm. I had just finished playing football for Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And he was actually playing football for North Bergen for a season in New Jersey. And just so happened, actually, no, you know what? Yeah, somewhere around there. But Key came to my house, and we were hanging out. My mom came home, told us there was a wrestling ring set up about 3 blocks away. So we jetted. I mean, we didn't even hesitate. We got up there, and there was a guy named Bodyguard for Hire, who is the father of Mike Cruel, who ended up being one of the FBI in WWE. But Mike Cruel was about 13 or 14 at the time.
Yeah.
And we were able to convince Bodyguard to let us wrestle in that ring, which belonged to Tommy D, who is famous because he discovered Cactus Jack.
Wow.
And we were out in the street because it was a street fair. And within 30 seconds, there was about 5,000 people that we knew, went to school with, everything, surrounding the ring. And we had like a quick 5-minute match. We're going crazy. And at some point, Key goes for a moonsault. He loved to be like, Sting and the Great Muta and all those guys.
Yeah.
And Jushin Liger. And he goes for the moonsault. When he does, he kicked the street light. So when he kicked the street light, the whole crowd lost their mind. And I was like, we can't beat this. So he pinned me 1, 2, 3. And from that point on, the drug was put in our veins, and we've been addicted since.
Wow. So you do that first match, and then do you do training at that ring too, or how does your approach, when does that come in?
So about February 1st,
Okay.
actually
Nice.
the week of leading up to, I'm friends with Low Life Louie. We go to school together. It's me, him, Mace from the Christopher Street Connection.
This is
There's
high
a
school,
bunch.
all these people are
Yeah,
together?
yes,
That's
yes.
insane.
Kevin Matthews went to school with us.
I love it.
It was like such a, like, how West Texas is the breeding ground for the West Coast, 60s, 70s. It was like Brooklyn was the same deal for us,
Wow.
And then Louis was running a promotion called IWW, Insane World Wrestling, and they would go to a church in Brooklyn and rent the ring there and tape and put it on public access in New York and Brooklyn, Manhattan, whatever. And so Louis knew that me and Key, we loved wrestling. And he was like, you guys want to do it? Yeah, sure, let's go. We didn't think nothing of it. We go. The first day we were there, we wrestled like 5 different matches. We came home. We were in bed for like the next 2 weeks, sore.
Wow.
We couldn't move, beat the crap out of each other. And within, I want to say about maybe about 4 or 5 months, Homicide and this other guy that was there, Lathon, who ended up becoming the head trainer for the LIWF Doghouse.
Wow.
He would take us under their wing, both of them. And Homicide, he heard me and Key talk about New Japan and All Japan and, Puerto Rico and Calgary. And he loved that, there was guys that talked about stuff that he loved. And we were calling ourselves the Hit Squad. Like, that was our thing. We were the Key and Monsta Mack, the Hit Squad, right? And he was doing a tag team called the Hit Squad with one of his friends, Mike Stone, who had just passed away. So he kind of felt like, oh man, this is kind of ironic. So after he took us under his wing, we were the LIWF Doghouse started running. And within a year from that moment, we were practically living at the Doghouse all the time, from Monday through like Friday. If we didn't have a show Friday, we'd be staying over, finding places nearby to shower up, wash our clothes, and go right back to school. And then a lot of times we'd be training after midnight. During the day we'd train with whoever would come, but then we from midnight. I know Key at Homicide, a lot of times they go from midnight to about 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning training. Wow. Yeah, and it was intense, but like we just wanted it. That's all we wanted to do,
Yeah. Are you still in high school when you're doing this training?
So when I do the IWW stuff with Louis, I'm in high school. I ended up in that May, right after we started, I had gotten hurt actually wrestling. There was a guy named Jack Behemoth. I actually just saw a video of him the other day. He was on the People's Court. Wow. And some guy was suing him for bad training, right? He was this big, fat white dude. I mean, like, probably about 6'5", maybe about 600 pounds, give or take. Yeah. He was huge. And he caught me with an elbow and it messed up my kidneys. So I ended up going to the hospital. And I my senior year, I missed a whole bunch of time. So I had to stay. And then I was like, man, this is so stupid. I missed my graduation. I was all pissy, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up staying and I transferred because I moved to Staten Island. So I transferred to Port Richmond, finished out there, graduated there. And at that point, then I started to travel. And Key and I were going all over the place as far as like Michigan and, up to Massachusetts and just everywhere that we could get anything. You know what I mean? And that's how it pretty much started.
Wow. When you look at the beginning, you mentioned Homicide. Is there like a lesson or something that still stands out that he taught you to this day?
The one thing that we always say to everyone, no matter what level they are, never forget where you came from, because it's that road that you took that got you to where you are today. If you forget those lessons, then you might not even, bother being there.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people forget who they are and where they come from, and you see them falter off real quick. And those that remember always get praise, they get love, and they get the better stuff. Now, I'm not saying the easier, but they do get the better of whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah. You mentioned early on too, you're doing a lot of travel with wrestling. So for you personally, what would you consider that first big opportunity in wrestling?
It's gonna sound kind of funny, but um, we were doing stuff. There's a guy in the WWE. He's one of the referees. His name is Eddie Orengo.
Yeah.
Eddie's been my boy since he's about 12. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, wow.
his father used to put us on to whatever shows. He used to run a lot of street fairs in New York and New Jersey. He has a lot of history. If you talk to any of the old school New Yorkers, they'll mention a gym called Pete McKay.
Okay.
You could ask Devon Dudley, Bubba Ray Dudley, any of those old timers from New York. They will tell you about Pete McKay's gym. And Bandito Sr., which is Eddie's father, he was part of that whole scene, and all those guys took us under their wing. There was guys like White Star, Fantastico, just a whole bunch of throwbacks. There's a lot of Hispanic talent because in that area there's a lot of Hispanic men wrestling,
Mhm.
and it started out there pretty much. But the real breakout for us was getting to work with NWA New York, which is based out of Staten Island. It was ran by a guy, Rick O'Brien, and that's where Magic, who's like, the godfather of the tri-state area.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where we ran into each other the most in the early on. And that was working there was where we got to showcase, because we did about 5 or 6 shows, and it was me and Key pretty much exclusively.
Mhm.
And we were exposing ourselves to a lot of people where they got to see talent, and that's where a lot of people were hitting us up. And then also working for Jersey All Pro, finally getting on those shows. We were there for about maybe 6 months to a year, showing up, and eventually Fat Frank gave Key a shot, and he gave me a shot the next show.
Wow.
And it was there that everything really just like took off.
Yeah. Before I want to ask you about NWA New York, what was it like wrestling for them? Because at the time, NWA had like literally an NWA in every state, but still to be under that banner must have been good still.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I've always been a big guy. At one point I was 225,
Mm.
but that was way early on. And my entire career, I've been anywhere as high as 330 at one point. But for the most part, I was between 230 and 250
Okay.
early on. And I always thought it was hilarious that they ranked me in their light heavyweight rankings. And
Oh,
I was like, yes, I'm an NWA rankie.
yeah.
But and I mean, for me, it was cool because I used to read all the magazines,
Oh, yeah.
PWI, all the after mags, everything. And to see myself get ranked for NWA or just mentioned for NWA New York, and I'm like, I think it was ranked 6 in the rankings, and Key was like 4, and I was just like, oh my god, I made it. This is
Yeah.
big time, right?
Wow.
But yeah, it was. I mean, it was awesome. It was. There was a lot of vets like Tito Santana, Greg the Hammer Valentine. They were working NWA New York, and I got to, experience what it was like to be in a locker room with them, and that was pretty insane.
Yeah. You mentioned always being a big guy. So where does the inspiration for Monsta Mack come in, the name?
So the day that we were going to do Louis IWW,
Uh-huh.
the first day, the day before, the night before, Key and I were up till about 2, 3 in the morning. We were thinking of what names to use. He already kind of had his. He got his from the Blackstreet song "No Diggity."
Okay.
There's a line where it's like low key on the profile. He's like, "Oh, that's me. Wait,
Mhm.
let me do my proper low key. Wait, that is me." But
Yeah.
what you call? So we were looking. We couldn't
Mm.
figure out. We couldn't find anything that fit. Like it felt like it fit. And I had the Beavis and Butthead Experience CD, and on there's a Sir Mix-a-Lot track called Monsta Mack. And he goes, "Wait, this is you. You hang out with girls all the time, and you're a big guy. It fits." And I was like, "Okay, we'll use it for now since we can't find anything else." And it just happened to stick.
Wow. Did you want to keep the Mac name in there?
So Mac, yes, I always liked Mac. I was a big fan of the movie The Program, and Alvin Mack is one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Okay.
Monster was a little difficult because since it's with an A, it's kind of like a ghetto pronunciation, and everybody always gets it wrong, and then it becomes, oh well, since you're a Monster Mac, you're the Big Mac or Monster Mash or whatever. And it's just ha 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 ha, very funny. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's why I started using Steve after a while, Steve Monsta Mack instead of just Monsta Mack.
Wow. I'm curious, you talk about it, you finally get to wrestle for JAPW. How's your first interaction with them? How's that first match? Because I've interviewed guys like Fala and Mario Bokara, and everyone talks about it was hard originally to get into Jersey All Pro because that lineage is there is stacked.
JAP at the time, like my first interaction with Homicide ever, it was at that church in Brooklyn.
Yep.
And we're doing a show Saturday morning, and he walks in and he's like, hey, I'm Steve. He's like, oh, hi, I'm Homicide. I was like, oh, hey. And I look down and he's wearing Timberlands, steel-toe Timberlands, right?
Yeah.
There's blood on these steel-toe Timberlands. I was like, bro, you got blood on your steel? He's like, yeah, I got them last night. I was wrestling for Jersey All Pro. I kicked this guy named Flash Wheeler. He started bleeding. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I thought wrestling was a work, right? So that was my introduction to JAP, and I knew that it was a place where if you were young, trying to get a name for yourself, it would be a great place to start because when we were there, a lot of the companies in the area, right? And they'll deny it today. Some of them are still running, but a lot of them treated the people of JP like they were unwanted trash.
Wow.
So because of that, I felt like for us, this is a perfect place because, we don't have to worry about whatever everybody else is doing or what they're thinking. And, we could make a name for ourselves with these people. If we could make our name here, we can make it anywhere. And that's exactly what happened. Being brought on the first time, though, it was like I said, we were there maybe about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months, and finally getting put into a battle royal. And the first thing that we're doing, it's a hardcore battle royal, and Doug Gilbert, Eddie Gilbert's brother, right? He comes in, and I actually talked to Doug not too long ago about this, and he remembered me. He comes into the ring and sees there's a lot of people. He goes, come here, son. We're going to get married to this corner. And he's teaching me in the battle royal, like giving me tips and stuff. And I'll never forget that. We stayed in the corner maybe about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, give or take. And then when it was time, he eliminated me, whatever. But we were taught, he was teaching me. I've never, I can't recall too many people ever teaching me in the middle of a match, first time meeting me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
is that your first interaction with him?
Yeah, wow. Legit. There was nothing he just said, he was like, yeah, I saw you guys, you and your cousin look like you guys were good. And I just figured, I'd just give you a little helpful tip. So he's giving me tips the whole time. I was trying to make a name for myself. So I powerbombed Key in the Battle Royal about 6 times. Yeah. And he caught a concussion.
Wow.
My own cousin. So I stood out. But Key also stood out because he took a lot of punishment. But, Key is Key. He's one of the best wrestlers ever. Mm-hmm. And we both were able to grab the opportunity and make something of it. And I also was fortunate enough to learn. One thing about my career is I'm very fortunate. I just put out yesterday a thing about Bam Bam Bigelow on my Facebook. All these veterans, they always saw something where they wanted to talk to me and drop knowledge. So they did. And it wasn't, I would go up to a couple of them, but they all would come up to, hey, you got something, son. And I always felt so fortunate. And it started with Doug Gilbert, you know what I mean? And that's JP. JP was such a magical place. I can't explain it. Yeah. I wish I had a whole series of books to explain what JP was. And even then, I don't think it would do justice.
What do you think made JP stand out? Because it still holds up to this day.
I think it was the heart. The heart was always Fat Frank. Frank loved wrestling. Fat Frank, he wrestled. He tried to compete at first with CZW as far as the deathmatch stuff. Mm-hmm. Just wasn't working. We couldn't do, they were willing to go to another level, and we couldn't afford it, and we couldn't match their effort,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how hard we tried. But he saw that Maff, Homicide, Key, myself, the SAT, Red, even though SAT and Red were down there, and we did a little stint down in CZW, the wrestling that we were doing was different than everything else. A lot of indies were TV names who were off TV and just collecting a paycheck, just showing up. If I'm Bruce Barbeefcake, I'm gonna do the sleep roll.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what he did.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, giving an example. And when we came out, we love lucha, we love Puerto Rico, we love deathmatch, we love ECW, we love WCW, all Japan, New Japan, and we mixed all those styles together. And we didn't know how to like hold back. We went. We didn't let the ceiling stop us. And that's kind of like the way JP was. Nothing really. No one could tell Frank no.
Wow.
If Frank wanted to do something, he did it. Even if it meant he had to piss a few people off, he didn't mind, because he knew that he was creating opportunities and he was creating a great legacy for himself and the company.
Yeah. In that list, you mentioned one name, so I'm curious right off the rip, what is that first interaction you have with Danny Maff?
So it's funny because we were doing a gimmick at which I was, after the battle royal that I did. I got put into the Nation of Immigration, which is a bunch of Hispanic men: Homicide, Dom Montoya, KD, Chino Martinez, and Low Life Louie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a rip on Nation of Domination, but Hispanic men.
Yeah.
And Maff was a huge supporter. He would come in with this giant Puerto Rican flag. He was the beast in the front row that, like, if one of us was getting our ass whipped, he would cheer. Yeah. You see that maniac in the front row? And it just so happened that he came to the JAP school one day, and he was like, I want to find out about the school, blah, blah, blah. Homicide and Frank, I wasn't there that day, but Homicide and Frank, they told him, they're like, we got an idea for you. We're going to train you, whatever. They wanted to put him with me right away. And at this point, I was doing singles run.
Yep.
And I was with Key, pretty much feuding everywhere. Like I said, we went to Michigan. Every which way we could go, we went and we wrestled. And I didn't really want to do a tag team. I wanted to do the singles because I was having fun. I was wrestling my brother.
Yeah.
And but eventually they were like, oh, we want to do this. You'll get on more shows. I was like, all right, fine. And it was kind of like, I really don't want to deal with it. Maff's a funny guy. Like, Maff is one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah.
He can be a bully, but if you've seen him wrestle, that's not a surprise.
Yeah.
But he's hilarious. And I think his humor and my humor is what really, got us to gel. Plus, there's a lot of similarities that we have, even though he's a couple of years older than me. But like, we share a lot of things in common, privately. And it was like, all right, well, let's give this a try, and we'll make it. We'll see and it just so happens, from like the first match on, even though, I gave him a hard time, there was like maybe one or two matches where I didn't even want to tag him in until the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, once I saw where he was at and what kind of person he was and what kind of, unit we became, it was the ride didn't stop for a few years after that. You know what I mean? And it was, he's just somebody that, like I said, he's very, I talk to a lot of, students and wrestlers, and I tell them, if you need to understand what being emotional, emoting, facials, even, philosophy, because a lot of people forget, when you're a bad guy, you're not supposed to be fraternizing with the good guys or the fans. You know what I mean? Maff is awesome to study because his facials, he does stuff I could never even come close to doing when it comes to facials, and his psychology for a match. He's somebody that, like, I tell people all the time, you need to study Maff if you want to be better at this.
Wow. You mentioned earlier the name The Hit Squad. So when does the idea for the name come in to pass it down?
Well, it was Homicide who was like, "How do you feel about you and Moff being the hit squad?" I was like, "I have no problem with it."
Is this like before you guys have matches or?
Yeah. This
Okay.
is from when he tells me that he met Moff at the school,
Okay.
and he hits me. He's like, "You know that big guy in the front row that's going." He came in to train to be a wrestler. So me and Frank were saying we want to put you in, and my idea is to call you guys the hit squad. They're like, you guys would be my hit squad, and I was like, all right, that's fine. And he knew about me and Key being the hit squad because originally in wrestling, the hit squad was Key, Mace Mendoza, Low Life Louie, and myself when we were
Okay.
doing IWW. That was the group that and he knew about that. And but then he was like, let's make this into something, big time.
Yeah.
And that's where, he tells me, he's like, I want to call you guys the hit squad and you guys will be my backup and we'll take it from there.
Wow.
So that's how it got used.
Originally, when you were doing the hit squad prior, were you dressed in the same way that you dressed with Moff, or how did you come up with the look and everything?
Originally I used to wear a Dennis Rodman jersey,
Wow.
a red bandana because the Bulls, red,
Yeah.
not any gang affiliation.
Yeah.
I'm the last person to be gang affiliated.
Yeah.
I'm so square. But and I used to wear shorts, camouflage or black fatigue,
Yeah.
shorts. Sometimes I would wear in the beginning the warm-up pants for basketball that have the snaps that you can pull off.
Yeah.
I used to wear those, and eventually they would get pulled off, and so I just got tired of it, and I just switched to shorts. But it was very similar.
Okay.
But then Moff was the one. We had fatigue coats, overcoats that had hoodies, but they were the same color as the pants. You know what I mean? And they matched the pants. So he was the one that got those, and matched them all. And we just wore in the beginning. I wore Magnum boots, the boots that the military wears.
Yeah.
I had a pair that was handed to me that had custom wrestling soles.
Wow.
So, it fit perfect. You know what I mean? And then right before we went to Japan, we got high spot boots, patent leather, and I still have them to this day. I still can use them if I wanted to.
Wow.
They're just sitting, waiting to be touched.
Wow. Like I mentioned, you're an absolute legend. So I'm curious for you, how was the experience getting to wrestle the Road Warriors? Because that's insane.
So at the time,
Yeah.
Maff and I, we call it the 5-year murder spree.
Okay.
And we're just wrestling everybody and beating up not beating up like beating up, but we're doing our thing. And the Road Warriors happened to be open for a booking. And Frank Goodman put it out that he was going to have them on his USA Pro. So I don't know if Frank knows this or not. He might not. I know I've mentioned it before, but at the time, message boards were like a huge thing.
Yeah.
So there was a USA Pro message board, and Frank put that the Road Warriors were going to show up. Who should you put against them? So I created like 10 accounts. Hit Squad versus Road Warriors. Hit Squad versus Road Warriors. Everybody caught on, and it wasn't even like a second thought, So he booked it. He calls me, hey man, these fans really want to see the Hit Squad versus Road Warriors. I was like, that's great. But sometimes you have to create those opportunities for yourself, because if you don't, somebody else gets them, and it ends up being. And I'll give an example of that later on when we talk about Japan.
Okay.
But and the cool thing was, like, everybody came. Like, Persona was working with us. He was already wrestling. I think he wrestled Ken Sweeney and got his tooth knocked out, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Homicide was there. Like, everybody that we were cool with all came to this show. And the only thing that sucked was it was a low ceiling. So we wanted to do their finish. It wasn't happening, right?
Yeah.
But me and Mom were there, and we're like in the locker room, and everybody's like, "You guys ready?" You're like, "Yeah, it's fine, it's fine." So, but trying to be as cool as possible,
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we hear, doof, 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 doof. And we're like, "What?" And it was them just walking in, right? And then we hear these two loud explosions. They both had a bag each of all the metal spikes. They carried the shoulder pads separate, and then when they got to the building, they screwed on the spikes.
Okay.
Nobody knew that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like I legit was. It wasn't nervousness, but it was like, wow. You know what I mean? Like it was such a force. And then Mike, Joe, Steve, Danny, and oh, you guys, we hear a lot of good things, and we've seen a couple of videos. Like, we don't know what to really say because it's the Road War.
Yeah.
I mean? And we talk, and we get in the match, and we're short. We look like babies next to them.
Yeah.
And
that's rare for you guys.
Yeah. It's them and the Samoan SWAT team.
Okay.
Samu and Fatu made us look like absolute midgets. You know what I mean? But we're in the match, and they're telling us, they're like, we expect a fight. We don't want you guys to just, cower. So at one point, Maff has Hawk in there, and Maff chops Hawk. I mean, he chopped him so hard, Hawk's chest legit ripped open and started bleeding. So Hawk's like, yes. I heard him. He goes, yes. I'm like, what? So we're working him, and I grab Hawk's leg, and I grab him like just a cross leg, trying to just a rest hold.
Yeah.
And he goes, loud, hey, kid, make sure after this you give us your numbers. We want to get you a booking with us down in Florida. And we're like, what? And the whole front row hears Hawk say that, and they all start clapping, right? So, we have this awesome match with them. Like I said, it sucked that the ceiling was low, but we did our thing, and they gave us lots of props. Both of them gave me their phone numbers, and to the day that they died, I stayed in communication with them.
Wow.
Both of them. I got yelled at by Animal because I stopped reaching out to him because I was just like, I don't want to bother you.
Yeah.
Shut up, kid. You're not bothering me. I gave you my number for a reason. And he would actually reach out when I was teaming up with Kyle the Beast. He wanted to use us for another company in Vegas. You know what I mean? It was like crazy that the Road Warriors of all teams loved the Hit Squad. You know what I mean? And that I was cool with them,
Wow. You mentioned USA Pro. Is there a match that stands out? Because even we talk about JAPW, USA Pro still stands out too.
USA Pro, the one thing that we remember is, and this is going to sound horrible, it might sound like it's fake, but it's true. Raven was the champ, and Raven was on main event, which was going to be like match number 15 of the night.
Yeah.
Raven said, okay, I'll be back. He left, went to a strip club, came back, and there was still 5 matches before his. He was like, if it was because, the strip club was farther away, I would go back to the strip club,
Yeah.
But no, with USA Pro, there was so many matches, but the one match that stands out for me is after me and Moff stopped teaming up, Frank Goodman booked me against Sandman and in the Elks Lodge, the real Elks Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
And through interference from Raven, I ended up beating the Sandman 1-on-1.
Wow.
So for me, that's like a super personal highlight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was cool with Sandman, and I got wins on Sandman in the ECW arena in Philly and at the Elks Lodge. So for me, I'm like, man, how can I be better than that? You know what I mean?
You mentioned low key was like a fan of Muda and all of them. Who are you? Who was your guy growing up?
I always loved Big Van Vader.
Okay. Yeah.
He just was the big guy that Bam Bam Bigelow was cool, and Bam Bam's one of my guys, But there was a difference between Bam Bam and Vader. Bam Bam was big. Vader was such a bull. And I always felt like that. Because people would tell me, I'd be like, oh, I'm a short, fat guy. You're not fat. You're built underneath,
Yeah.
And so I always associated my look with more of a Vader style.
Nice.
But at the same time, I love Macho Man. I loved Hulk Hogan, obviously, and Masahiro Chono.
Wow.
Chono was he was awesome. He's the man, you know what I mean? And the attitude that he always presented, that he was the boss, that's the attitude everybody should want to have in this business.
Yeah. You talk about independent companies that you wrestled for. Originally, how does the opportunity for Ring of Honor happen?
through USA Pro,
Yep.
through ICW, which originally was UCW in Queens,
Okay.
and through JAP. Rob Feinstein and Doug Gentry. I had known them since the ECW days before I even started wrestling.
Wow.
And they were filming all those shows with their, they would do the handheld camera.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw the Hit Squad, Low Key, Homicide, Xavier, SAT, Red, Quiet Storm, Divine, all of Special K, Jay Lethal, Dixie, Dragon, Derange,
Yeah.
Azrael. And they knew when ECW closed, if ECW didn't close, that we would have all been a part of that company at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So between them and Gabe, they had approached us. The joke is always it's either Hit Squad or SAT. I have a feeling it was the SAT because they used to travel with
Okay.
Rob and Doug all the time. But the joke is always that who would he sign first? Was it the Hit Squad or was it the SAT? And I always joke it was us because there was pictures of us first. But yeah, he approached us at JP and gave us the rundown. Him and Doug, Rob and Doug, and just let us know about this is the evolution of ECW and what would happen if you guys would have been able to run in ECW, getting away from the hardcore stuff and doing more of the pro wrestling and taking it to the next level. And, and that's just what happened at the time, because we were in charge, like we were like the face of all the stuff in the area. When I say us,
Yeah.
Homicide, Loki, SAT.
Yeah.
And then somehow they put us in charge of being the ones that established the rules of Ring of Honor. And so he wanted us on first. This is Gabe wanted us on first. And we were the enforcers of the Code of Honor, which to me kind of felt like we were the face of the company, because everyone knew you're going to have Daniels, Key, Joe, Homicide, AJ, but we were the ones that, like, the rest of the locker room, we were the face of all that. And, whenever you saw anything Ring of Honor, it was always the Hit Squad was like second or third, in that Click series. So
yeah,
that's pretty much how it started.
Is the Hit Squad a part of the first ever match in Ring of Honor history?
Yes, they are. Even though I know Ring of Honor has tried to delete it, and they have a good reason to. The commentary, we were in there with Christopher Street Connection, who was doing a gay gimmick.
Yeah.
And, at the time, you could be a little more liberal with your mouth.
Yeah.
And so I know that that's part of the reason why they always go to, Red and Jay Briscoe were the first official match. Technically, they're right. They were the first announced match, but we were the first match.
Wow. What was the atmosphere like wrestling for Ring of Honor? Because like you mentioned originally, they had this idea that it was going to be the evolution of ECW, and a lot of people with independent companies have hopes for it, but these guys did. And to see what Ring of Honor became, for you, what was the atmosphere like wrestling for Ring of Honor?
At first, it was like it was similar to wrestling for JAP.
Okay.
The JAP fans were very rabid for JAP.
They had that cult following, yeah.
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 And that was like the first maybe one or two shows. And then once the rest of the country saw what Ring of Honor was, and, they started to travel, then it became, so much more over the top. There was one time WWE was in Philly at a house show the same day. They were in the afternoon and Ring of Honor was at night. And if I remember correctly, WWE drew less than like 600 fans.
Wow.
It was that, because at the time it was really bad.
Yeah.
And we were just at like 500. And we were all geeking out because we're like, we almost outdrew WWE in Philly,
Wow.
And, so like to know that we were there, like, you know what I mean? Like that, It was so crazy. But honestly, it was always, you had to push yourself. Like I've always been the type to, if I can't push myself, I don't want to do it anymore. You know what I mean? I always pushed myself as hard as I could for Ring of Honor, and especially, that first few shows, because we're establishing everything.
Yeah.
And it was so rewarding when you go out there and you didn't even have to have your music play or be announced, and they would chant Hit Squad.
Wow.
We're in a whole nother state from where we're from.
Yeah.
And it was such a great feeling that first year.
Yeah. You talk about the Hit Squad being so over. I'm curious, how does Japan happen for you guys?
It's through Homicide, because
Wow.
Homicide had gotten approached to wrestle for Big Japan.
Mhm.
And after his first tour, they loved him so much. They were like, "Oh, we hear you have students." He was like, "Yes, the Hit Squad." And originally, we were supposed to go in September of 2002.
Okay.
But something happened that they had to delay it. But so what ends up happening is, from September to October, when we go, they're running promos of us every week on their TV.
Wow.
So when we get to Japan, like, it's insane. There's reporters waiting for us at the airport, and like, you felt like a rock star. You know what I mean? And then when you get to the building, people are waiting for you to sign autographs, and crowds going nuts for Squad. And just were building us up so huge that it kind of put not that it mattered, but it put a lot of pressure on us to perform, and I think we did well in that aspect. But like, one of the telltale signs of how good we did was, after the show, we were in the parking lot for 3 hours signing autographs.
Wow.
And it was like, not like, it wasn't like anything scheduled or anything, just people waiting with things for us to sign, and that was so cool.
What was like a day in the life for you in Japan?
It depends, because like the first 3 days we wrestled the day after we got to Japan, and then we were in the hotel for about 2 or 3 days before we started to travel for the next set of shows.
Okay.
And like those days, it would be me and Homicide and Maff. We flew 14 hours, drive 2 hours. We get there, first thing we do is eat McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But where we were at in Shin, Yokohama, there's a giant electronics area. So for me, that was like the best. I went and saw all the tech. There was a mall not too far, and we just go walk around and explore. And then when we were traveling, we'd be on the bus for a few hours, set up the ring, work out before the show with the Japanese guys, get dressed, do our stuff, wrestle, and then get back on the bus and travel some more. There was, I think, one stretch where we did like, I want to say 3 days, because we were driving to North Island, and it takes a while, and we had shows in between. So there was like maybe 3 days where we slept on the bus. Wow. And it was fine for us. It wasn't nothing big,
Yeah.
And then we get to the boat, the ferry, and the ferry was like 30 hours. But the cool thing is, we got to watch the World Series on the boat. So like, we were all marking out,
Yeah.
And then, getting to the next hotel. But the next hotel was such a fancy hotel in Sapporo. It was amazing, But it was something that I definitely would love to have done more of. Sammy Chaos just went to Japan, and she was telling me about her time. She was there for a month. She would go do the shows, and right after, every veteran went up to her and gave her critique, even if they didn't watch.
Wow.
And I was saying, like, America needs more of that.
Yeah.
Because if they did, we'd have so much better wrestling.
Wow.
Right now, American wrestling, not so good. Not that it's great in Japan, but, having someone there tell you, even if they didn't watch it and they tell you, "Oh, I didn't watch, I'll watch on tape and give you critique." They still gave her the critique. You know what I mean? And I wish we had that.
Wow. During that time, was there anything that stood out wrestling for those crowds, or just the matches in general, compared to with the States at that time?
I think more of the deathmatch scene was blowing up, because with New Japan, they kind of almost killed the business by going more shoot style.
Okay.
And while shoot style is, if you're a wrestler, a fan like me, it's awesome. But it's boring for the regular fan, because you really can't see a lot of the technique that's going on. And I think that's what happened. And a lot of the storylines got lost in translation, funny enough. But the death match was starting to blow up huge, because that's when CZW was there with Big Japan.
Yeah.
And like, they were doing all kinds of crazy different things, right? So that had, some massive appeal for them. Whereas then Ring of Honor starts blowing up, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla starts blowing up, and they're more of the, style that you have today.
Yeah.
Where it's, the strong style mixed with the gymnastics, mixed with the stunt work, and I'm not trying to say it like, disparagingly, but like, that's really what it is now.
Yeah.
It's not wrestling like Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything has to evolve. But, for me, that's how I see it. It's a mix of those things. It's entertainment. I love entertainment. I still watch WWE because I like watching entertaining storylines, even though some of it sucks.
Yeah.
Some of it's kind of like, oh my God, what did they do? But at the same time, just a lot of it that's really compelling,
Yeah.
And for someone like me, I'm like, oh man, that's cool. They're using this storyline from the 80s to draw off of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I look at things.
Yeah. When I look at the Hit Squad, one thing that stands out right off the rip, I'm curious, what is the inspiration, or how do you come up with the idea for the signature wall spot you guys do?
So at the Doghouse,
Okay.
there was a wall, maybe about, I want to say about 8 to 10 feet away from the ring, the side of the ring.
Yeah.
So Maff had taken Mace from the Christopher Street and thrown Mace into the wall. But it wasn't a wall. It was one of those roll-up fences for, like a industrial garage, right?
Yeah.
But then when we were at JP, we had a show, I want to say it was with Insane Dragon. And Insane Dragon, I love that kid. He's, to this day, we still hang out, and him and his brother Dixie,
Nice.
I consider them like family. And I had said, I was like, hey, what do you think if I press slammed you from the ring to wall? The wall there was like about 5 feet away from the ring. So it was a lot closer.
Mm.
He was like, should be fine. No problem. I was like, all right. So we do it. Crowd's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next show that I did it was 9/11 Memorial. And we, like, everybody big, like CM Punk, Colt Cabana. There's a bunch of names, ECW names that came out for that show. And I was a little miffed because they didn't get anybody for the Hit Squad to wrestle, Yeah. And they could have, but they didn't. So we wrestled Elax and JT Jobber. And Elax was someone that he was a little bit bigger than Dixie and Dragon. I threw him to the wall, and he hit so hard that there was a Dollar Tree next door. All the stuff from the Dollar Tree fell off the shelves onto the floor.
Wow.
And that's the one that, like, everybody, like, I've had people tell me that one was the one that they first saw, like, because that was back then when, like, Kazaa and LimeWire and whatever other, illegal apps they had back then to download stuff. That was, like, the first wrestling clip that they had seen was me throwing people. I've had a bunch of people tell me this, and I'm like, okay. They were like, but you're like viral from that. You know what I mean?
You were viral before like viral was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, okay, did I get paid? No. So it didn't really, but it's cool that it happened though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that was like the big one. And then like from that point on, everybody wanted to see the wall. And I actually stopped doing it for a while because one of the Boogie nights, he got hurt real bad.
Yeah.
He went to throw him. He grabbed the rope. He fell straight down. And I heard him snoring, out cold on the floor from the ring, So I kind of eased up on it. But then, like, every once in a while I would do it. And then the one with Trent Beretta, where I threw him at ECPW school, that was about a 30-foot toss.
Wow.
And, he fell just short of the wall, but he landed into a bench.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really get too hurt. He got like a bruise on the side of his body. But that one was the one I went super viral. And he had said, we kind of made an angle out of it and beyond. And he's like, I got over that a long time ago. I was like, good, because, like, I wasn't trying to, like, have to punch you in the face for you trying to step up to me. But, after that, it was hard to do because how are you going to top a 30-foot toss?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really stopped doing it around there. But, it was something that even this weekend in Florida, people were chanting for the wall. And I was just like, how do you know?
Yeah. You mentioned the Boogie Nights. There's one match I gotta ask you about. I forgot the exact date, but you wrestled the Boogie Nights. You guys go all out, but when the Boogie Nights pin you, I watched it. You can have a pin drop in there. It was insane. So what's the atmosphere like when you're walking into that building? Do you see like the chain fence and all that and say like, oh, we can make some magic with this?
So the four of us walked in, and so that building was the Bubble in Staten Island, and there's a lot of history for ECW
Okay.
because one time Bubba and Big Dick Dudley just fought the entire crowd, legit, in a riot.
Yeah.
So there was something about that building. I don't know what it was. It just
Yeah.
had crazy energy. And I remember Drake and Tobin had said, we got the clearance to, do whatever we want pretty much. And we're like, all right, so now our creative juices are going. And we're just thinking of all the craziness that we could do.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it. Like, it's that simple. Like,
Yeah.
They had told us we want to climb, and you guys start swinging the doors against
Wow.
and we were like, all right.
Yeah.
I remember at one point I want to say it was Tobin with a table.
Yeah.
And I have a scar on one of my arms that the table cut my arm like down here.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it was one of those days where, and it's so crazy. I only remember this because afterwards we went to like Applebee's.
Yeah.
We were talking about it. That's the same day that the singer Aaliyah died.
Wow.
And we found out after the match, and we were like, oh, well, at least we'll remember this day forever. And it was like a month before September, not even like 2 weeks before September 11th. So like,
wow.
I remember all of this vividly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy because you guys utilized that building. I forgot what it was. Right next to the chain, there was like a fence thing. Didn't they trap one of you guys? I forgot who it was, but yeah.
Yeah, they trapped. They locked the fence on me and kept me out. And then what was funny was the camera, instead of editing, I was waiting, and they caught me sitting on a chair waiting and looking like I'm just chilling, having a cigarette. Like,
yeah. For you too, being a part of all these companies, what were like the early MLW days like wrestling there?
MLW was kind of cool because MLW was, by all rights, the next step for ECW.
Okay.
Because it was the same camera crew. Charlie, I can never say his last name, begins with B. He was like the head camera guy. Charlie was the mastermind behind the shot of when Al Snow was in ECW, and he would have the head and the camera would be upside down.
Yeah.
And then as he came out, Charlie was the guy, the mastermind in WWE wanted to hire him because they couldn't figure out how to get it the way Charlie did.
Wow.
And going to Charlie's house to film promos with Court Bauer and the SAT and Red, it was like kind of like how TNA is now, if that makes sense.
Okay.
The same level of production, the same level of travel, and thought that goes into the booking process. Court really wanted to make something special, and he did, but then Court ended up getting signed by the WWE, and MLW closes. But up until that point, there were so many cool things that happened. I got to wrestle with Umaga a bunch of times, and Samu, and Mana. I got to meet Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and he remembered me. I had seen him a couple of years down the line. He remembered me from those shows. And one of the coolest things, and I was just telling one of my friends about it, that first show they had Terry Funk versus Abdullah the Butcher, and they used a fork, and Abdullah would put tape on his fork on the one end, and then use the other end to stab. He and Terry used the same fork, and it had gotten super bloody. So they came to the locker room, and Abdullah had known me from, he actually told us about what he was reading about us in Japan, about the Hit Squad. And we had met in Ring of Honor, and he told us about that. So we were cool with him.
Yeah.
And he came up, he saw me, and he handed me the fork right away. And so it has Abdullah's and Terry Funk's blood on it, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, right? Homicide was trying to steal it. To this day, he's still trying to steal it.
Yeah.
But like,
you still have it?
Yeah, I still have it.
Wow.
I have it in my house just chilling,
Nice.
But it's like one of those things, like, it was one of the old school guys recognizing the new school guys.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. You know what I mean? Abdullah Butcher don't have to do anything. He does that, and I'm just like, oh my God. So like, whenever people see me now, the way that I behave now is from all the vets. Like I said, Bam Bam Bigelow helping us out, Chris Candido, Shane Douglas, all these old guys, Mikey Whip. No, I don't want to say old guys, but veterans.
Yeah.
Mikey Whipwreck, Abdullah Butcher, Terry Funk, Dusty Rhodes, X-Pac, Scott Hall, all these legends, people that were somebody in the business, all gave us knowledge. And stuff like that, I always keep with me forever, no matter what.
Yeah. Especially during that time, especially. What was it like wrestling Trent Acid?
Trent was special, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think about him a lot because
Yeah.
when Maff and I stopped teaming up the first time, nobody wanted to use me. JP, Frank was giving me opportunities to interview people backstage or be commentary, which I did great at, but I still wanted to wrestle. And whenever there would be a dark match, I would ask, you need somebody, I got my stuff, whatever. And Frank would put me on every once in a while. Trent Acid knew that I could wrestle. And he was like, look, man, let me and Steve have like a 3-match feud. And we'll have a match in Rahway, we'll have a match in Philly, and we'll have the 3rd match in Rahway. We did it, and he put me over in all 3 matches, even though I wanted him to go over. And he put me over all 3. And I'll never forget that because from that point on, I always was booked for JAP to wrestle.
Wow.
And he was so giving of himself. He was such a genius, It's crazy because when you look at like the 27 Club for musicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those guys and girls that passed away at age 27 were musical geniuses? And they all had the same problem, drugs, because it helped their creative mind. And that was the same thing with Trent. His creativity came from his altered state of mind, and I really, I always put myself hard on it because I would be like, I wish I could have done more to help him, but there was nothing anybody could have done. It had to have been him. But he was so good that if he was wrestling today, there's no way that nobody would be talking about him. Yeah. Everybody would be talking about him,
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate that he was taken from us so young.
Yeah, everyone tells me when we talk about him on this show that he would be signed somewhere, or he would be an agent or something.
Yeah, he definitely would have been running. I see him more in AEW.
Okay, yeah.
He would be running things down there. That's just me thinking out loud.
Yeah, and especially when you look at your career finally, you talk about when the idea first came with you and Danny Maff, you didn't really want to do tag team. When did the idea that tag team wrestling was going to be something that you wanted to do? Because after Danny Maff, you were involved in numerous tag teams.
Part of it was fear, because the fear of wrestling singles. I didn't know if I could push myself. And it wasn't until those matches with Trent that like I really knew that I had some sort of confidence to wrestle singles, right?
Yeah.
But that fear of running by yourself, being a failure by yourself, that was always sitting with me, and then it's in tag team wrestling, you have to think about it this way. There's 4 egos in that match that you have to work with, right? 3 and then yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can make that work out, that's better than any singles match, because now you only have, in a singles match, you only have yourself and the guy, but in a tag, you got 4 guys. And if you can make them all stand out, then you're doing something great. And to be honest, I like the story that you could tell in the tag match. I've always liked, if the heels beat up the one bad guy and try to single him out, like there's a definite art to that story. This weekend, I wrestled the Rapture, right? And they're 2 young guys. They've been around a couple of years, a few years. They, as heels, were great storytellers. And I loved working with them. And I feel bad that I'm not younger, that I could have given them a better physical performance, because we would have had like a great 20-minute match. Ortiz was the guy, he's the ring general no matter what.
Yeah. And
he's the one that made that match, super special. But they were able to cut off the ring, cut off the tag, be heels and tell a great story. And it's not a lot of people know how to do that properly in this day and age. Everybody wants to do, I'm going to do mine spot and you're going to do yours. But it wasn't about that. It was a tag match, and that's what separates tags from singles. So for me, I just love being, especially with a tag partner who can go.
Yeah.
And I can, like, my favorite tag team besides the Hit Squad was the Heavy Hitters with Havoc.
Yeah.
Because Havoc from the Solution, Havoc was this big dude. I loved Havoc. He was such a special guy. And he never understood what he brought to the match, you know. And I was able to show him what kind of star, and I would watch him. And, you know, I watch the matches now, and there's a year and a half's worth of work. And I get to see him from where he started to where he ended when we stopped teaming. He was a totally different guy, you know. And, you know, he's another one, unfortunately, that's gone way too soon. But, you know, Havoc was so awesome. And I love the fact that I was able to help bring that out of him. That, like, 2 months before he passed away, we were talking. He was like, man, I'm getting that itch again, but I would only do it with you because you know, you make me shine. I was like, bro, that's you. You're the star.
Yeah.
I'm just here to navigate the traffic for everybody else. You know what I mean? And he
Yeah.
started laughing. He's like, you can't even give yourself the credit for that. I'm like, no.
How does the idea to team with Havoc come about?
I always, like I said, I always liked Havoc.
Yeah.
Solution was a big tag team in the area. Hit Squad was a bigger tag team but we were all boys. We all went to the doghouse. And Havoc was someone that I loved talking. He was another one. Funny man. And he just, everything we had super chemistry. We always had it. You know what I mean? And I just, one day at JP, actually, it was, you know, we wanted to bring our boy Guapo in as our manager. He was another doghouse guy, WXW guy. And we loved him. He was, you know, I still talk to him to this day. He's one of my best friends. Wanted him to be our manager. And, you know, and going over the idea, I had told Loki, who was helping out with the stuff at JP at the time. Loki loved the idea because he was like, you guys are going to kill everyone. And I was like, yeah, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much what got the ball started rolling. But, you know, unfortunately, Guapo couldn't come. So it was just us. But, you know, then they put us with Johnny D, who was the manager of the Hit Squad and the Solution. And it just worked out and things just fell apart, you know, fell together, I mean, in place. And then add Antisocial and we had a squad. You know what I mean? And it was awesome.
Yeah. Especially when you talk your career, whose idea is you team with Eddie Kingston?
I had pushed for that. I always liked Eddie. Eddie was from the JP way back in the day before, like, he blew up when he was training. And him and his partner at the time, they were Blackjacks. And he always wanted to wrestle for JP, like a lot of people. And for whatever reason, couldn't get on. So he went to the Midwest, disappeared for a little while, wrestled out there, came back, and he became, you know, Eddie Kingston the way that we knew it. And he was always funny as hell to me.
Yeah.
And again, humor, you know what I mean? And it just so happened, you know, I needed a tag partner. I asked him. He was like, yeah, let's do it. And we just became the Street Kings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was, I think it only had like a 3 or 4 show run.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. Even seeing him this weekend, we were laughing hard. And, you know, he's just someone that's so special. You know, he's one of those guys I'm very proud to see all the good things that he's been going through happen for him.
Yeah. And especially we talk tag teams. You mentioned earlier, how does the idea for you and Kyle the Beast come to team up?
So we were wrestling for a company called UWA Elite in Central Jersey.
Yeah.
It was Arcadia who had hooked that up. And he throughout, you know, me and Louie were teaming up for a while there. We were the heavy hitters there. And then me and Kyle had teamed up, I think, once or twice at UWA. And Danny DeMonto had gotten a hold of that and saw that. And he liked the way we looked as a team. And he started using us for JCW, GCW. And we just stayed there for, I think it was like 2 years we were wrestling. And one of the most fun times in the ring for me. Because, like, at that point, it stopped being like I'm learning. And now it's more I'm just enjoying and teaching. And I taught him. I taught EYFBO. I taught Arcadia. Well, Arcadia was already, you know, but a lot of the younger guys like that in that system at the time, I was helping out with. And, you know, Brandon Kirk, Jeff Cannonball. It was a lot of fun. Like, it was so much fun. And Kyle the Beast, I don't understand how he didn't get signed because he had the size, the look, strength, talent. he really should have been on someone's TV. I mean, he should be now, you
Yeah.
know, but whatever happens, I don't know. But, you know, I really feel like he's someone that wrestling dropped the ball on, you know.
Teaming with KTB for you, how was the experience? Talk about wrestling the Road Warriors and then later on getting to wrestle the Steiners. How was that one?
So at this point, I know it's going to sound pretty pretentious. I'm kind of spoiled because I wrestled all the big names in the business, you know?
Yeah.
The only names that we didn't wrestle that I wanted to was the Rock and Roll Express.
Okay.
But I wrestled the Steiners, the Road Warriors, New Age Outlaws, the Dudleys.
Were they like the Voodoo King Squad Mafia or whatever?
Okay. Yeah. We wrestled them in JAP a couple of times, me and Havoc. But like wrestling the Steiners, I was a little nervous because Scott Steiner, you don't know. You know what I mean? Like he's always been, but even then, like talking to him, he was so cool. You know, I messed up one time throughout the match and he's like, relax, kid. And I was like, oh, my bad. And like, I thought I was going to get like a right hand across the face. He was cool, you know, and Rick Steiner, I got along really well with Rick Steiner. So like that made tensions a lot easier, you know. Very grateful for all the talent I've been in the ring with because I got to learn from them and gain their respect. And it's one of those things where, and you know, even as a 29-year vet, you still look for is instead of being their fan, you become their peer. And I did that with a lot of people that I looked up to. And the Steiners were one of them. You know, they gave us a lot of praise after the match. They were happy with everything. You know, and that's the best thing that you can do is make sure that the veteran that you're working with is, you know, approves and is happy to have had the time with you in the ring, you know?
Yeah. When we talk stories, I've never heard anyone get to wrestle him. So I'm curious, how was the experience wrestling New Jack?
So New Jack wanted Maff and I, when we were in Ring of Honor, to join him in XPW.
Okay.
And he wanted us to become the new gangsters in XPW. And it wasn't an easy choice to make because they were throwing a lot of money out. And they knew that, again, we were like the face of the company in that first few months.
Yeah.
So they were throwing a lot of money, and Jack was always cool with us. You know, going back to before XPW, before Ring of Honor was just JP, he was always cool with Homicide and us. You know, and wrestling him is like, it's a lot of fun because nothing is strategized. You just go out there, you just play around. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it comes down to with Jack. The only thing is, which it didn't happen with me, but if he got upset, then you had to be more cautious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for everything else, Jack was easy to work with. You know, you knew if he grabbed the toy, just be ready to get hit. He also knew, though, if you cut him off, he expected you to hit him. You know what I mean? So it wasn't hard at all to work with New Jack. It was just the fear of, you know, if I piss him off, then I might not be so well. But on the other hand, I had more in-combat training with Homicide, my best friend, because there were times where I hit him and he would snap and he'd beat the crap out of me and let me know I did wrong. But, you know, it wasn't that big of a fear with New Jack because of Homicide. You know what I mean?
Nice. When you look at everything you and Danny Maff did, I'm curious, who were the tag teams that brought the best out of the Hit Squad? Because you guys wrestled so many tag teams.
First and foremost, we don't become the Hit Squad unless we wrestle Russ and Charlie Haas.
Okay.
Russ and Charlie Haas were just two animals from Seton Hall. This is the crazy thing. Like, we see guys now that are jacked up or instantly like, he's on the gas, right?
Yeah.
These guys weren't never on the gas, right? Well, at least not while we worked with them.
Yeah.
After they got signed, I can't say, you know, for sure what.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there was some. But before, they were clean. Just two corn-fed white boys, jacked.
Yeah.
You know, 6'2", 6'3", 240 pounds, muscle, Oklahoma fed muscle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would throw us around like nothing. And they taught us, you know, the skill of having to defend yourself and to bring the fight. Because if you don't bring the fight with them, they're going to eat you up alive. You know. And then after that, the next like real tag team that we had a big feud was Homicide and Key. And that's because it was family and we were always wrestling each other wherever we went. We always brought the best that we could out of each other. You could say the same thing for the SAT because we were wrestling the SAT practically every week for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know? And it was awesome. We always experimented. We did great stuff. We did crazy stuff. Some stuff didn't work, but for the majority of the time, everything worked.
Yeah, trial and error,
We had great chemistry. But the greatest team that we ever wrestled that brought the fight out of us was EYFBO, LAX, Proud and Powerful, Santana Ortiz, because they were so young and hungry when we were the big dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were fighting not just to gain our respect, but to earn their spot at the table. And every single time, even though there was a lot of laughs in the locker room, when we get into the ring, everything would be serious and we would just go at it full bore. And when TNA had reached out to Maff and myself, they wanted to use us to bring us down as LAX. Maff and I couldn't. We had real jobs. We couldn't. They asked us on a Tuesday to go down for, I think, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
And we couldn't just drop everything. You know, we had jobs, we had families, responsibility. We were gladly able to say to Homicide, use Santana Ortiz. They're ready.
Wow.
And from that, they create this whole big legacy for themselves. And if it's not for them falling out, they still would be probably in AEW or WWE, you know, tearing things up, you know?
Yeah.
But they were the ones that really like brought the fight out of us every single time. And, you know, even teaming up like I said, this past weekend, I was down in Florida teaming up with Ortiz and it was all love. It was so much love. Like till the day that we die, we're always going to have love and respect for each other because we just each team brought each other to another level.
Yeah.
And I can't really think of how maybe the SAT is close like this, but they weren't there. But Santana Ortiz, definitely.
Before this match for respect, what's like the last match you have with Maff?
I want to say before the one we did in November, we teamed up for Beyond 2000. I don't remember if it was 17 or 18. I want to say it was 17.
Yeah.
Against the Hate Club at Game Changer World. Okay. That was the last time we teamed up that I can remember. We might have teamed up once after that, but I really don't remember anything after that.
Yeah.
But that day was our last day with Beyond. And Maff started doing his thing, teaming up with Donovan. Sean Donovan becomes sent to Slaughter. And then, like, I was just floating around, just doing whatever until I started wrestling for Titan Championship Wrestling, where, you know, I took over a big spot there.
Yeah. So how long in the vault is this idea? How does this idea come to do one more match?
Honestly, it's just age for me.
Okay.
I wanted to stop wrestling right before the pandemic. And I had been inspired. I saw a wrestler who was in his 50s from the Indies get used as an extra for WWE.
Wow.
And I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm not even in my 40s yet. I could at least get an extra part, you know? I never tried. That's not true. His squad tried around 2001, and we pissed Kevin Kelly off because he told us to lose weight. We were like, no, that's what makes us special, you know? And he's like, all right, so then don't get used. That's all.
Yeah.
And that was rightfully done because we were being arrogant. If you want to say more me, then more me, but we both were being arrogant about that. But I reached out to a couple of my contacts in WWE to ask how to get used as an extra. And on the first shot, John Cohn answered me back. He's like, hey, I know who you are. You got a few friends here that know who you are. I mean, he shot me, 3 dates. And the first one was Philly on a Friday. The next one was Monday after in Boston. And then the next one was Brooklyn in February. Was it February? It was either February or March, right? And, I did those those three, and he was like, "Oh, just be on the lookout because I'm going to definitely reach out for more." Because it was crazy. A lot of people knew me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but doing that showed me that I belonged in the WWE or someplace, that I shouldn't hang up. I should just keep going. And
What was the reason for wanting to hang up originally? Just you've done a lot and
just
you're done or
feeling
tired?
old,
Okay.
feeling old. You know, uh, Honestly, I wasn't like my knees and my back and my shoulders hurt really bad now.
Okay.
But back then I was feeling okay. Like I wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But I moved to Pennsylvania and it was really cold and I would feel everything. Like today, this week, it's really cold
Yeah.
in New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Feeling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back then, living down here wasn't that bad.
Okay.
But when I moved to Pennsylvania, I felt everything. So I was like, maybe it's just time to start, winding down. As my responsibilities with Titan Championship Wrestling started to dwindle, I started thinking about, having one more big match. And I had spoken to Moff about it maybe about a year ago before we did the match. I was like, hey, I really want to do something big this year. Just one. And we'll figure it out. We'll figure out who's going to do it. And he was like, yeah, sure. Just let me know and we'll work around, figure it out. And originally I wanted to do Private Party because we had a great match, a couple of great matches with Private Party.
Where would this be? Beyond or no?
No, we wrestled them at House of Glory.
Okay.
And then we wrestled them Pro Wrestling Magic, I believe it was.
Nice. Yeah.
And then we were all over the place with them and we always had great matches. And I had happened to see Mark Quinn at a show. And he's like, oh, man, I would love to wrestle you guys. We were looking for you for AEW in the beginning because we wanted to wrestle our match with you guys there. And I was like, oh, you should. They were like, oh, we heard that you guys weren't talking you off. I was like, no, we always talk. Oh, sorry, man. That's all right. But that really fed more fire, fuel to the fire. And I had heard that they were going to WWE. So I was like, all right, well, we're not going to. I wanted to do Violence is Forever. I actually pitched it to Brett Lauderdale a few times.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, why don't we do Asbury Park? Violence is Forever versus the Hit Squad.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I like the idea. But then he never got back to me. So finally, Ray from Respect, he was like, do you want to do anything on my next show? I was like, well, I have this idea. And I pitched it to him. And, I had mentioned how I wanted to wrestle a younger established team. And above the rest is somebody that I've been working with since CZW days, where I was, in the background helping out. And they were one of the teams that I always help out, agent their matches. And I knew how good they were. And I knew that Tristan Ty was coming off of MLW TV, even though he still does a lot more, he still does stuff. But I knew that Gabe Sky was hungry and Tristan Ty was coming off injury and off TV, wanted to make a comeback, So I figured this would be a good spot. Moff loved the idea, and then we just ran with it. And I just wanted to. There's something special about the Hit Squad. No matter what's going on, it could be we don't talk for 30 years, and as soon as we talk, it's as if we saw each other yesterday.
Yeah.
And I knew that having this match with them, a lot of people would want to see that, and I wanted to hear and feel that Hit Squad chant one more time. And then no matter what happens from here, like I just figured I just want to make it to 30 years, whatever it is, and just disappear.
Wow.
I'm not going to say I'm going to retire because you could always come back for one more.
Yeah, those don't exist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I just, the way I see it, I want to get to 30 years and just fade to the back or fade to my couch, whatever it is. And, but I wanted to make sure, me and Moff had a proper send off because we were a special team. No matter what anybody says, what we say about ourselves, we're a special team. And the magic that Moff and I have, there's not many people that have it. And, and we showed it that night. It was crazy. It was a crazy match, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. And especially bringing the best out of, when you talk Steve Mack, the singles wrestler, who brought the best out of you singles, you'd say?
PJ Savage.
Wow. Yeah.
PJ Savage is one of these guys like how EYFBO was for tag team. up and coming New York Hispanic. And to be honest, I've never been one of those guys in my career be like, oh, I'm only doing this for Latinos or whatever. I'm more of the regional guy. I'm from Brooklyn. I do it for my Brooklyn people. I'm from New York. I do it for my New York people. You know, he's somebody that he's from New York, young, hungry. Oh, he's a little rough around the edges because he still needs that experience.
Yeah.
You know? But he's somebody, I've seen it. He connects with people in ways that only special talents can. He's somebody that when he gets to TV, you know, whoever puts him on, they're going to give him a belt right away because he's that talented. You know, something special about him. And every time we wrestled, like, it was always like the young lion bringing out the old lion for one more last good fight.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's something that he always drew out of me. And, you know, and we have good chemistry too. And we could have been a tag team. We teamed up once or twice. But we really, you know, if we really wanted to be a tag team, it would be like everybody's got to watch out. See who's got a new tag team partner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's definitely the guy that when I was Titan champion, he made my run special.
Nice. I'm curious nowadays. You talk about wanting to hit that 30-year mark. What else are you up to nowadays? I've seen you doing some matches for Titan, but what else in wrestling?
I actually just started working with Jack Martin and Zach Ruby. We're the Mac Daddies.
Nice.
We are in a feud with Tony Cini and his crew.
Yeah.
To be honest, though, like, that's something new. I'm doing the manager role, the coach role, I guess. But it's something that I know I can do because I have a lot of experience and people see me as somebody is credible. So, you know, if I'm managing someone, you know, it just works. Other than that, though, I really, in wrestling, like, I enjoy giving advice to those who I know that can do something with it. I don't give advice to everybody because not everybody's in this business for the right reasons. Yeah. You know? And, but there's a lot of guys and girls that I give advice to, and I'm watching them as they're all taking off. Bear Bronson's one of them. I have throughout the years, I've helped him out a lot. Yeah. Even when he was on TV, I was still giving him advice and he would use it. His wife, Nomi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sammy Chaos. I mean, so many, you know, even the day that I saw you at Beyond or Wrestling Open, I was talking to Marcus Mathers. Marcus Mathers, one of the hottest indie guys out there, period. Yeah. And I'm giving him advice that he's like, yes, please, you know, thank you. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's just a lot of guys and girls that I feel can make this business better. So in wrestling, that's the stuff that I like doing, helping out, making people see things in themselves that they never saw before. Because that's what I did with Havoc. That's what I did with so many other guys, Kyle the Beast, even Dan Maff. Yeah. You know, it just, I love helping people see that, what they have inside, you know. And as far as outside wrestling, though, I love video games. Nice. So I've been, for the last few years, I've been slowly but surely learning how to code so that way I can make my own video game eventually. Wow. Yeah, so that's awesome. Well, at some point, you'll see a Monsta Mack video game.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough. I told you the day at Wrestling Open, it was crazy just getting to sit and talk to you. I was talking to Mike Tobin Pryor like weeks ago about you, and the fact that we got to talk, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for remembering who I am and knowing I appreciate it very much.
You're an absolute legend. However, every episode of Best for Business has ended the same. The day we decide it's all done, which in wrestling doesn't really happen, but the day we decide it's all done, what do you want your legacy in pro wrestling to be?
To be honest, I tell everybody the same thing no matter what. When they have an opportunity, after they've established their own character, legacy, whatever it is you want to call it, I want them to find somebody that's in the locker room who's young and inexperienced and help them and teach them the way that I taught them and gave them help and experience. Yeah. Because that's the only way this business stays good. There's so many guys who are selfish, so many guys who don't care about anybody else but themselves, and girls too, honestly. But it's something that, like, people question if wrestling's in a good place or a bad place. For me, I see wrestling as there's a lot of potential. And the only way to get that potential is to properly nurture it and water it, watch it grow, and just we all got to do our part, and every veteran that's helped me out, that's the lesson that they taught me, that when we got to do for others, not just ourselves. That's the only way that this business works. It's a dance, and it takes two to dance. And if you don't have that partner reciprocating your moves and your help and your advice and whatever else, nobody's going to grow. So that's the one thing about my legacy is it's not about me. There's a lot of things that I've done that are cool. Believe me.
Yeah.
Someone one time was trying to be, disparaging about me. And you didn't get a TV contract. Well, all your friends did. That's fine. I went to Japan. One time, me, Maff, Homicide, Key, SAT, Red, Quiet Storm, and there was American Dragon, right? Mm-hmm. All of us were in Japan on the same week, right? Now, Dragon is the outside, but we were cool with Dragon.
Yeah.
Right? But we're all from Brooklyn. We're all Hispanic kids from Brooklyn, right? That nobody who in their right mind would pay us to go to Japan for anything. Mm-hmm. Yet all of us were in Japan the same week. Doesn't get any higher than that. Like, that's cool as hell to me. Yeah. And if I did nothing else, then that's dope. But the fact that I was in the WWE magazine twice, when hardly any indie guys, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a Reckless Youth or Ace Darling or, Devin Storm. Those are the only guys getting mentioned in WWE magazine. Yet Maff and I had happened twice.
Wow.
And like everything else that I was able to do, wrestle in all the different places that I wrestled in front of all the different people, meet all the different people. How could I ever say that was a bad thing? Like, my career was pretty dope. You know what I mean? So, I always look at that stuff and I'm like, man, I've been so lucky and fortunate. And I'm so grateful for pro wrestling because, if it wasn't for me and Key getting in that ring in October 96, who knows what the hell would have happened? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I thought I was going to play football in college at the time. You know what I mean? Mm. But then wrestling came along and it's crazy how the ride's been. So, my legacy is something of, if you think of me, think of anything can happen because I'm proof that it did.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough. I remember last semester in college, I was watching a bunch of your matches. The one that sticks out, I remember, it was you guys, the Haas brothers, the Cash Marino brothers, and there was another team. I think it was CZW at the time.
Yeah.
So the fact that I could watch all these matches in classes and watching you at like 12, 13 years old, we can make this happen when I'm 20. Thank you so much.
Like I said, thank you for supporting and watching, because without people like you and all the people, whether it's podcasts, radio, like I said before, Sam Roberts. Roberts is someone that I gave his first wrestling job to.
Wow.
TV, there's so many people on TV that I've helped out and whatever. But if it wasn't for everybody showing their love for pro wrestling the way you guys do, none of us would be able to do the stuff that we do. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. And you have a storied career, so down the line we got to do like a part 2 or something.
I'm down. Maybe we should do a watch along.
I want to do a watch along with Tobin and all, then watch that match back.
Yes, I would do that. I would so do that. You let me know and I'm there for it.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this, and thank everybody for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.